lotus. It's a fantastic description because that's actually how it works. So often people try, and they're not having enough kindness. They haven't established enough mindfulness yet. So basically the meditation doesn't really work. They go thinking all over the place, and they just fall asleep, and they can't really know what they're doing because their mindfulness is not strong. The kindness acts as the glue to stick the mind onto the object. And the mindfulness is actually what can see what's going on. So those two work together. And I was talking in one of the interviews yesterday to actually reinforce this with simple Buddhist teachings, Eightfold Path. And I keep on saying the Eightfold Path is not something which exists outside of meditation. If you meditate, you should meditate in accordance with the Eightfold Path. And in one of the interviews I was talking about one of the most forgotten parts of the Eightfold Path is the second one, which is right intention, otherwise known as right thought, Samma Sankappa. And there are three right intentions or right thoughts. And those are Nekama Sankappa, Vyapadaka Sankappa, and Hingsaka Sankappa. What those actually mean is Nekama means renunciation, letting go, not doing anything, abandoning, throwing away, relinquishing, Nekama. Now sometimes you understand renunciation like going off to become a monk or a nun. Yeah, but renunciation is many, many things. So it's basically letting go. So we have intentions of letting go. That's right intention number one. Right intention number two is non-ill will. And it's incredible how many people meditate with ill will. Usually to the person sitting next to them who's snoring every morning. Or the person in your room always bangs the door in the middle of the night so you can't get a good sleep. Or ill will towards yourself. I'm hopeless, I'm terrible. So all those types of ill will, the Buddha said it's a wrong path. You'll never get anywhere that way. So the opposite of ill will, because this is avyapada, in Pali it always means like metta, loving kindness, compassion. And this is right in the center of the second factor of the Eightfold Path. Thoughts, intentions of kindness. So you have to have that kindness towards your mind. It's run off all morning, thinking about stupid sexual fantasies, thinking about killing somebody, thinking about the most stupid things. There was a monk in Thailand, and he was a good friend. And he had trouble when he was meditating, having sexual fantasies. And he asked Ajahn Chah, please give me a method so that when I meditate I won't have to have these sexual fantasies anymore. And Ajahn Chah said, very simple. He said, the next holy day when all the lay people come to the temple, you get up and give the talk and tell the lay people who've been feeding you in detail all the sexual fantasies you've been thinking about. That will cure you. He didn't do that. He just couldn't do that. But there's another way. I can tell them what you've been thinking. Because some monks can read your mind. Do you want your mind to be read? Do you? Really? And me to tell you what you've been thinking about? To tell everybody on tape, get it recorded? Gerald Lee, he has... Please. No, I wouldn't do things like that. That's why I sometimes say, can monks read people's minds? And the answer is, what would they read your mind for? Is your mind really interesting for a monk to read? Absolutely no way. You read the first few pages, I'll throw it away. That's rubbish. So, no. So, it's the right thought. It's like thoughts of renunciation and thoughts of kindness. So if you do have any rubbish stuff like that, don't have ill will towards your mind. Have kindness towards it. And my story, okay, here we go, sexual fantasy stuff. When I was my sixth year as a monk, And I had this beautiful monastery, absolutely perfect monastery, up in the mountains of north of Thailand, in Medang district. It had caves, and I loved caves, really peaceful, deep limestone caves. And to this day, there was lots of bats in those caves. To this day, I'd had such a wonderful meditation, a lovely time there. To this day, whenever I smell bat poo, it's delicious for me, it's fragrant. I love that smell, simply because I associate it with one of the happiest times of my monk life, meditating alone in this cave. But it never started off like that. When it started off, I was meditating, it was by myself, there was no other person there, an abandoned monastery up in the mountains, cool, nice food, everything was brilliant. And then I started getting these thoughts coming up into my mind. I call them unmonkish thoughts. Like thoughts of old girlfriends. I wonder if she's still available. No, stop it, Ajahn Brahm. And I really love being a monk, but sometimes these thoughts come in and you just can't get them out. And I kept pushing them away and saying, come on, watch your breath. And it was a battle. And some of you may understand this, the battle you have with your mind sometimes. It was a battle. I tried to keep these thoughts out, and they kept coming in, and push them away again. They kept coming in. It was so tiring. And it was getting worse. I was losing the battle. All these thoughts kept coming in more and more and more. Again, ex-girlfriends, fantasies, romance. All these different types of thoughts coming in, which monks aren't supposed to have. And my problem was I never had anyone to talk to because I was alone in this monastery in solitude. So I got so desperate one day that I went to the Buddha statue in the hall. And I bowed to the Buddha statue and just basically said, help. Now, I'm not a superstitious monk, and I don't know why I did that. It was just out of sheer desperation. I was going crazy. But an idea came into my mind almost immediately afterwards. And that idea was to do a deal. Do a deal with my mind. And the deal was that I'd allow myself to think sexual fantasies or anything for 1 hour every day. And I wouldn't try and stop them. 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., I told myself, you can think whatever you like to think. Anything goes, the weirdest, strangest thoughts, I would not try and stop at all. That was sexy thought hour. But the rest of the day, I would behave. That I'd watch my breath and I'd meditate. Okay, so if you want to think those thoughts, 3 to 4 p.m., you can do whatever you want. I thought that was fair. I thought that would work. But it never worked the way I expected it to. Still, it was as much of a fight, a battle as before. You'd be watching your breath and this thought came up. And before I could catch it, it had got hold of me. Get out of here. And I couldn't get rid of it. And it was a battle all day. And when it got to 3 p.m., I was really tired, fighting my mind. But, I have to keep my promise. I went up to my room. I remember leaning against the wall because I was so tired, put my legs out, they were sore. And I said, okay, mind, you can think whatever you want now. Any thought under the sun is allowed. When I say the sun, I meant that British newspaper, the Sun, the naughty one. I just thought that's not what I meant. Any thought you can look at. And you know what happened next? The most incredible experience. For the next hour, 3 to 4, when I allowed my mind to think whatever it wanted to think, it watched every breath without missing one. My mind was so peaceful and still. And I couldn't understand, well, what the heck's going on here? When I want my mind to watch the breath, it has all these fantasies. But when I let my mind be, it's quite happy resting with the breath. That's why I understood how to stop all those thoughts. You don't stop them by fighting them. You actually feed them. Remember that story of the anger-eating monster? That was a monster. I said, get out of here. You don't belong in my mind. I'm a monk. You shouldn't have these thoughts. Get out. That made them stronger and harder to get out. When I said, okay, you can come in here. No sexy thought. What can I get for you? You can stay in here if you want. And then they just left. They disappeared. They vanished. Now this is the psychology of meditation. Ill will, feeds the fantasies, the thoughts, the restlessness, even the tiredness. Kindness undermines it. And I mentioned earlier, the only reason we have those thoughts, we're trying to escape, run away. When you have kindness, your mind doesn't want to run away at all. It stays with you. And you have such a peaceful, peaceful time. So I learnt, what letting be is, from that experience. Before, I was really afraid to let these things be. I thought they'd drive me crazy, they'd make me disrobe, they'd do all sorts of stupid things. And I started fighting them. And I didn't realize at the time, fighting them was actually giving them energy, making them stronger and more fierce. As soon as I was kind to them, they softened and they disappeared, and I was so peaceful. And then afterwards you thought, how stupid could a monk be? For years, and Ajahn taught like that. For years I knew that Buddhism was this kind and compassionate religion. They never actually did any violence to anybody. They never criticized. They were just so kind. Remember that story? These assassins came to kill the Buddha. And he didn't call the police. He didn't say, bad assassin, you're going to go to hell. He said, oh, never mind, I forgive you. Taught them the Dhamma. And they became stream winners afterwards. And that's how the Buddha teaches. He doesn't use his kung fu and bash them up. And I always, he didn't have kung fu anyway. I purposely did. Because I always remember the story of Nalagiri, the elephant. This was a famous story in Buddhism. People try to kill the Buddha, out of jealousy. That always happens. That's one of the reasons why, as a monk or as a lay person, if you do attain anything, don't tell anybody. They'll be jealous of you. Even here, imagine, I said that, one person in this room was now an arahat. And they were sitting next to you. And think, her? Gee, that is her first retreat. I've been coming in for years. So this is just the nature of human beings. You're always jealous, so keep it quiet. So, the Buddha, he let on he was the Buddha. And so people tried to, get rid of him many, many times, many ways. And there's one time, they made an elephant drunk. And they set the elephant loose, in the narrow streets. In those days, the streets were really narrow, because they were just for horses and carts. And the Buddha with his monks were coming on arms round in the opposite direction. And basically, there was nowhere to run, except backwards. So all the lay people, they were running away from this mad elephant who was charging down the roads, smashing everything, destroying a lot. And they ran past the monks, get out of the way, there's a mad elephant coming. And apparently all the monks were arahats, so they all ran away. They climbed up trees, they went through windows if they were open, anything to get away. Because that, there is a Buddhist text called Milinda Panha, and that's one of the things that King Milinda, he actually asked this monk, he said, these were supposed to be enlightened monks. Why did they run away and climb up trees? And the monk was really, really a smart monk. He said, because the arahats, they knew what was going to happen. They had to get out of the way to allow this amazing event, which became an important story of Buddhism, to actually happen. If they'd have stayed there, they would have spoiled the story. So when you're a smart monk or you can get out of anything with the right answer. One of my favorite little stories. This is from the Thai tradition. And there was this famous courtier, who was so wise, so intelligent, so well read, that he was actually part of the king's court, many hundreds of years ago. And because he was so smart and intelligent, all the other people in the court were really jealous of this guy. He was like a know-it-all. And he usually did know the right answer as well, so it really got up other people's, up their neck or whatever. I was going to say something else, but you know what I mean. And they really hated this guy. And so they wanted to plot his downfall. And they came up with this plan. The following morning, they were going to praise this member of court, to say how wise, how intelligent, how helpful he had been. to try and get his pride and conceit to get very, very, very strong. And when they thought he was proud, his conceit was very strong, they would ask him a question, because conceit always makes you give wrong answers. And what they were going to ask him was, "You are so wise and developed, I'm sure you can read our minds." And hopefully he would say yes. And when he said yes, they would ask him, "Well, read our minds then." And even if he could read our mind, and say we were thinking of like the beautiful spring morning, we would deny it, say, "No, that's wrong," because no one can prove what you're thinking. If you got it right, they would still say he was wrong, and thereby embarrass him in front of the king. So the following morning, they started praising this man. How wise, how hard-working, what a great benefit he was to the kingdom of Thailand. He said, "Yes, I'm so great, I'm so wise, I'm a great benefit to this kingdom of Thailand." And when they thought he was proud enough, one of them said, "Oh, you could probably read people's minds." He said, "Yes, I can read people's minds." He'd fallen into the trap. So they said, "Well, please tell His Majesty what we are all thinking." And if he got it right, they would still say he was wrong, to embarrass him in front of the king. And after a few seconds of reflection, this minister said, "Yes, I can read all your minds. You're all thinking kind, loyal thoughts to His Majesty." And they all said, "Yes!" If they said the opposite, they'd be dead. So that's a smart person. You can always find a good answer no matter what situation you're put in. So anyway, back to Angulimala. Not Angulimala, sorry, Nalagiri the elephant. He was running down the road and all the monks had run away, but not the Buddha. The Buddha continued walking slowly, mindfully, while the elephant was running as fast as he could. And only one person stayed with the Buddha, and that was Ananda. Ananda loved his master. He had this real affection for him. And Ananda went and stood in front of the Buddha. "Let the elephant kill me. I will sacrifice my life for the Buddha, for my master, for my teacher." Wasn't that sweet? Now I ask you, would you do that for me? No, well, you'd be up the tree. But the Buddha just pushed Ananda aside. Very, very cute, very nice, but I can look after this. So having pushed Ananda aside, there was just the very calm, peaceful, compassionate Buddha, facing the mad, angry, drunk elephant with all this power. Who would win? You know, if that was Hong Kong, they'd be having a bet. They'd be giving odds. 3-1 on Nalagiri, 2-1 on the Buddha. I know how much you like horse racing. Do you have lots of betting in Indonesia as well? Yeah. Horse racing? World Cup betting? But anyway, so there they were, facing one another. And they were coming closer and closer. Everyone was wondering what was going to happen. Now the Buddha had incredible psychic powers. He was a Buddha, he could do anything. I often say he could have grabbed the elephant by the trunk, swung him around his head 3 times, and thrown him over the Ganges 300 miles away. That was easy. But that is not how the Buddha works. Instead, the Buddha, as you should know from the story, he gave this incredible compassion towards the elephant. Nalagiri, the door of my heart is fully open for you. Even if you squash me with your big feet, if you take me up with your trunk and smash me against a tree, if you kill me, trample me, gore me with your huge sharp tusks, I will always forgive you and love you and care for you. Naragiri, the door of my heart's open to you no matter what you ever do. That's what I think the Buddha did. And with such immense, unconditional, that's the most important word, compassion. What happened next, according to the story which people saw, Naragiri stopped. No matter how drunk he was, no one can withstand such unconditional love. And Naragiri was bowing his head to the Buddha, with the Buddha stroking his trunk. There, Naragiri. There, Naragiri. That's how the Buddha conquered the drunk, raging elephant. Not with force, but with this beautiful, unconditional love. The door of my heart's open to you, no matter what you ever do. Now sometimes your mind might be like a drunk, raging elephant, destroying everything, fantasies, hate, anger. You know what it's like meditating sometimes? Sometimes your mind is absolutely crazy, mad, like an elephant who's drunk. How do you deal with that? You don't say, stop it! Sexual fantasies are wrong for a monk. I shouldn't be thinking of killing Ajahn Brahm. I shouldn't be thinking of murdering the cook. If you try and fight that, again you lose. Instead, stupid, angry, crazy mind, the door of my heart's open to you, mind. Whatever you want to do, I give you unconditional acceptance. And then, just like my experience in north of Thailand, my mind got so peaceful immediately. No fantasies, just the breath going in and going out, so peaceful, so wonderful. Because the second factor of the right thought is kindness. The Buddha never said that just to impress people. He said it because it works. The right intention of letting go, of kindness. And the last one is ahimsaka, gentleness. Made very famous by Gandhi and his ahimsa. And it was amazing. His philosophy of ahimsa, this little man, poor in rags, he threw out all my ancestors from India. The might of the British Raj. He managed to get rid of that, not through violence, not through protests of violence, just by his very, very high morality, and just the British walked out of India. That was how powerful gentleness was. Unbelievable powerful. And that's how powerful it is, to get all the defilements, anger, greed, whatever it is, to walk out of your mind. Just like Gandhi got rid of my ancestors. Simply because of kindness. That is how it works. Gentleness. So those are the three things of right intention. And don't just believe that that's what you should do outside of meditation. That's what you do inside of meditation. Which is why, if it wasn't so cold, you'd see people's t-shirts. My Jhana Grove t-shirts. Make peace, be kind, be gentle. And they say underneath Ajahn Brahm, you should cut that out. That was the Buddha said that, not me. So make peace is like letting go. Don't fight things, don't try and get things, just let go of things. Make peace with life. Make peace with your tired, stupid mind. Make peace with the people in the next room who can make all the noise. Now make peace with the person who bangs the doors. Make peace with the person who takes the last of the porridge when you haven't had any yet. Whatever it is, make peace with life. And then be kind to everybody. You know, if somebody really has only one piece of porridge left, one banana left, or you really like it, give it to someone else. That's kindness. You get so much more fun out of that, helping others, than getting it for yourself. Be kind and be so gentle with the way you walk and talk and the way you treat your own mind. And then you know that that is the most important part of meditation. It's not using your force. Right, this is it. I'm going to watch my breath all day today. That never ever works. What works is looking at your body and mind, closing your eyes. I'm going to make peace with whatever comes along in my mind today. I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to be so kind with unconditional kindness. Whatever comes along, fantasies, anger, ill will, whatever comes along, I'm going to be so kind to it, just like the elephants. And I'm going to be so gentle with whatever I do today. Then you'll find your mind becomes very, very peaceful. And you find that it doesn't want to wander around anywhere, it just stays put. Because it's having a good time, it's happy, it's peaceful. And you find if you want to watch the breath, the easiest thing in the world, okay, come on, let's watch the breath. And you watch the breath go in, just making peace with the breath. It may be short, it may be long, it may be rough, it may be smooth. You just make peace with it. You don't try and change it. You make peace with it. You know, in life you can make peace with anything. You can make peace with the mosquitoes, you make peace with the snakes. You can even make peace with the cold and the heat. It doesn't kill you. You can make peace with anything in life, even angry people. You know, that they can shout at you, they can scold you. In one ear, out the other ear. You can make peace. You don't have to keep their anger. They're giving you something which is nasty. If they gave you a piece of shit, would you receive it? Of course you wouldn't, but you receive their anger, which is even worse. So just, you don't receive it. In one ear, out the other. You can make peace with anything in life. And you can be kind to anything in life. Sometimes people ask me, what if you're really sick, maybe the end of your life, in bed, dying, and you can't watch your breath? Maybe you've got this big mask on you, or this stuff they put up your nose. You could hardly breathe. Maybe you're in pain. Can you meditate? And they asked me that, and I said, you can always make peace with whatever you're feeling. You can always be kind, even if you're dying. You can always be gentle. Therefore, you can always meditate. And that's what meditation is. And I know that because I have died in previous lives. But one of the worst sicknesses I had was when I was in Thailand, the first year or two. I got scrub typhus, same symptoms as typhoid. And they didn't know what I had. So they put me in the monks' ward of the hospital in Ubon. It's about 1974-75. That was a third world country at that time, Thailand. And the northeast was the poor part of northeast Thailand, you know, the backwaters. And the hospital, there was a monk's ward, about 6 beds on either side of the ward. And when I got into that ward, I felt terrible. I just had a fever for many days, and they put me in the hospital. They didn't know what it was. And I was laying down there feeling terrible. And about 6 o'clock, I noticed there was the nurse's station on the ward, the end of the ward. The male nurse disappeared. At 7 o'clock, he hadn't come back. And I talked to the next monk. I knew enough Thai. I said, should someone go and tell someone the night nurse hasn't come yet? And that monk then told me, there is no night nurse. They only have a nurse during the daytime. If something goes wrong at night, it's just bad karma. I want to go home. That was really scary. For 12 hours every day, you were on your own, no bells, no sort of alarms. If something went wrong, that was just tough luck. That was a really harsh hospital, but even worse was they didn't know what I had. So they kept on having this cocktail of antibiotics twice a day in my bum. Now, these days, the needles, number one, you only use them once. And they're high-tech, really sharp. For those of you my age, you may remember the old days, all the needles were recycled. They boiled them to try and sterilize them. And they were big, they were huge. And to this day, I'm really sure they used them in Bangkok first of all, and then they sent them off into the provinces. And after using them in the main part of the hospital, the last part was the monks' ward, because we're supposed to be tough. And those needles, no exaggeration, they were dull. And I know this because the nurse who would come in twice a day in the morning and afternoon to give me the injection, she was not one of these like petite nurses you might find in a Hong Kong hospital. She was this big like water buffalo. And she had to be strong because she never injected you. She took this and stabbed it in your bum. And it really hurt. And I get twice a day. It was like, in the old days, going to the headmaster's office, for the cane or something. That really hurt. And with all the compassion I had, and I have lots of compassion, after a few days I hated that nurse. I couldn't have any compassion for her at all, the way she stabbed, oh God. So it was really tough in those times. I was there for about 3 or 4 weeks, because no one knew what it was. We didn't know that it was scrub typhus, because according to the health department, there was no scrub typhus in that part of Thailand. And the reason is all the locals had got immunity. And you had these like Westerners coming from overseas, or from Singapore or Hong Kong or whatever. They would come there and they didn't have the immunity and they would catch these things. And so eventually they found out, it was actually scrub typhus. This little mite in the forest would carry that disease. But at the time they didn't know, it's such a cocktail. And so I remember one day in this hospital, saw bottom, saw everything, feeling really terrible, feeling depressed, in the middle of a fever, just remembering, I'm a monk. It was actually that time was actually when Ajahn came to visit me. Fat lot of good he did, because when he came to visit me, this old story, he came to visit me, and this is a big monk, okay, your teacher, comes to visit you in hospital, and you feel straight away really important, really sort of happy. My teachers, thank you so much, it uplifted you, until he opened his mouth. And then he came up to me and he said, Brahm Wangso. I said, yes. You're going to get better or you're going to die. And he turned around and went out. That's not what I wanted. You want bedside manner. How are you doing? Anything I can do for you? You getting enough food? And just being really nice and kind. You didn't get that. You just get hit with the Dhamma. You get better or you die. So, remember, if you're Buddhist now, if that's your grandma in Hong Kong hospital is sick, just go up to her and say, Grandma, you're either going to get better, you can get better or you're going to die. She won't want to see you anymore. She'll cut you out of her will and everything. Anyway, so there I was in hospital, really feeling bad. And I decided, okay, look, you're a monk. Meditate. And that was when you realized with a fever, really incredibly low energy. Sick with a fever for about 2 or 3 weeks. Really sore and painful. I said, okay, just meditate. Make peace. Be kind, be gentle to your poor old body and your sickness. Stop fighting. And I got into this incredible, blissful, beautiful meditation. Body disappeared. That was so wonderful. Because especially if you're sick, your body aches all the time, especially if you've just had a fever. It's always constantly sort of painful and heavy and just ugh. And there you go, you can let it go and go into a really nice meditation. That was blissful. But afterwards, it's how the heck could you do that? And you realize because you're actually practicing Eightfold Path, you're following Buddha's instructions. And the Lord Buddha was the wisest person who's ever lived. He knew how to meditate. Make peace, be kind, be gentle, even if you're really sick. And because of that, the body vanishes, everything settles down, you're not feeling ill will. And there's something really weird in meditation. I've seen this myself, and I've seen it in other people. That when you get into those deep states of meditation, there's a natural healing happens. Now, I wasn't really that clued in at the time, not really experienced. It was only my first or second year as a monk. But I'm pretty sure that that's where the fever stopped. You get into the deep meditation and things just vanish. Bacteria, whatever else it is, viruses, they just get zapped in those deep meditations. And sure enough, obviously I Ajahn was right. The sickness never lasted, and I didn't die. So I got out. Now that is what can happen. Make peace, be kind, be gentle. You can always do that. So if ever you think, I can't meditate, I'm just too tired today. I got a cold, I got a fever, I've got some terrible sickness. You can still lay in your bed and make peace, be kind, be gentle. That is the trick. And even if you're healthy, you sit here, close your eyes. Should I watch the breath? Shut up, it doesn't matter what you watch. What are you watching now? What are you observing? What are you feeling right now? What's the object of your consciousness right now? Present moment awareness. Whatever it is, make peace with it. A fantasy, ill will, your tiredness, make peace with it. And be kind. Really, 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 really kind. Like the Buddha was to Nalagiri. And be so gentle. And you find everything relaxes. You can feel the mind becoming so peaceful, so open, so free. And then you find you become still. And you learn the secret of meditation. You just need to relax, to make peace with things, to be kind to things, to be gentle, just like the Buddha was in his daily life. And that's the way you meditate. I've often asked people, recently I've been saying this, I said I think the last Saturday morning meditation in Nolamara, when you start meditating, just imagine you're the Buddha. Close your eyes, imagine you're the Buddha meditating. How would the Buddha meditate? It's beautiful kindness, beautiful acceptance. Closing his eyes, whatever's happening now, it's just life. I'm going to be kind and peaceful and so gentle to whatever's happening in my mind and in my body too. You can imagine that. And now you are meditating. This is a real meditation. It's not vipassana, not samatha. I'm going to finish off in about 10 minutes. That people often ask that question, are there two types of meditation? And there are two types of meditation. And it's not samatha vipassana. No, those aren't the two types of meditation. That is just such a silly argument which has gone on far too long. There are only two types of meditation, and I call those second Noble Truth meditation and third Noble Truth meditation. Tying meditation back to the teachings of the Buddha. The second Noble Truth, you remember what that is? Craving is the cause of suffering. So if your meditation is suffering, if you're frustrated, fed up, disappointed, want your money back, want to go home, if you are suffering, why? It's because you've been doing second Noble Truth meditation. You're suffering. Why? Because you've wanted something. You've been craving. Stupid. Stop it. Stop wanting things. Wanting is the cause of suffering. Said the Buddha. Second Noble Truth. Basic Buddhism. So, don't do second Noble Truth meditation. That's why people suffer and they get frustrated. They think, I can't meditate. I don't want to do this anymore. This is hopeless. This doesn't work. Other people can meditate, not me. Everyone can meditate, but not everyone does it right. You can if you do it right. Don't do second Noble Truth meditation. You just get suffering. Instead, do third Noble Truth meditation. Letting go of craving leads to Nibbana. Ultimate bliss and happiness. Paramang Sukham. You like to be happy? I mean really happy. I mean really, really happy. Happiness beyond your wildest expectations. And this is what happens in meditation. It happened to me years ago, and other people, somebody about a couple of weeks ago said the same thing, and I was laughing. I said, yeah, I've been there, I've done that. Sometimes the happiness gets so strong. You get so much bliss inside of you. You get the thought, this is a thought I got, and someone else got the same thought. A human being can't take so much pleasure. they're going to die, they're going to explode, the pleasure is too great, I can't contain that anymore. But what I discovered, it's important to know this, there's no limit to the pleasure that you can experience. You don't die. You don't explode. Are you interested in the pleasure of the mind beyond your wildest expectations? There was, and I've often said, you've heard me say this before, even nimitta stages when they get strong, let alone the jhanas, is better than sex, better than sexual orgasm. And I don't mind saying that. I know not many monks say things like that. But I was a layman before I was a monk, I know what I'm talking about. And that gets people really interested. And I've said that so many times. But there was a guy who came here about a year and a half ago, sometimes, I don't know, because I live too much in the present moment. He was a heroin addict. And he was kicking the habit. He came over here to sort of try and just be in a positive environment to really keep off the habit. Unfortunately, he relapsed. It's such a terrible thing. It's a real strong addiction. You have to say no 1,000 times. You only have to say once and you're back on again. That's why it's such a difficult thing. But before he went back on again, I remember I was going into our city centre on a Friday afternoon. He came running after me. Ajahn Brahm, I've got to say this. When you told me that these pleasures of meditation are better than sex, I thought, yeah, maybe. But I never thought they'd be better than heroin. Because he says heroin is, and I don't know this, I've never taken stuff like that. They said the pleasure of heroin is far greater than sexual orgasm, which is one of the reasons why it's addictive. And he said meditation is even better than heroin. I never thought I'd ever say that. Now, you know the pleasures which await you if you follow my instructions to the letter, if you follow what the Buddha said. Make peace, be kind, be gentle. Nibbanang paramang sukhang. Nibbana is the highest happiness, way above heroin or sexual orgasm. So do you want the best happiness available for human beings, which will blow you away? This is what happens when you make peace, be kind, and be gentle. Now the question may come up into your minds. No, sex is addictive. Heroin is even more addictive. Can you get addicted to the pleasures of meditation? And the answer is, yes, you can. And number two, you are supposed to as Buddhists. Because one of my favorite teachings of the Buddha is from the Pasadika Sutra. And I've got the copies of the sutras in the office. If you want to check me out, come over there and I'll show you. Open it up. This is what the Buddha said. He said, anyone who gets addicted to the pleasures of meditation can only expect one of four results. This is what will happen to you if you get addicted to the pleasure of meditation. Only four things can happen. The first, stream winning. Second, once returning. Third, non-returning. Fourth, full enlightenment. The 4 stages of enlightenment, said the Buddha, that's what happens to you when you start to indulge and get addicted to the pleasures of meditation. You interested? Any takers? Of course, this is what's supposed to happen. So when you do the second Noble Truth meditation, you just get suffering, you get frustrated. You're trying to get somewhere and you never get it. Even if you're trying to achieve something, you can get close, but you can never actually capture the thing which you desire. That's the story of your life. What you really want in life, you can get close, but you can't really reach it. But when you stop, you let go, you make peace with things, you're kind, you're gentle. You let go of all your wanting and craving, you're just happy to be here, making peace with this rather than wanting it to be different. When you're very kind to this moment, not trying to get rid of it to get something else. When you're so gentle, you don't make war, you don't fight, you don't make battles. Then you find everything which you hope to attain by striving, by wanting, by working hard. All those things which you hope to attain, you find when you let go. Right there, all the pleasures of the mind. Greater than, this is true, this is not an exaggeration, greater than your wildest dreams. Incredible peace and pleasure and happiness. These are the happinesses of enlightenments, the deep meditations. Peace and freedom at last. Whoa, this is good. So sometimes people keep telling me, it must be so difficult living as a monk. Are you kidding? This is the best life, the life of pleasures behind your wildest dreams, deep meditations, enlightenment, the whole works. And that's on offer in this retreat. No extra charge. The free gift available to everybody who follows instructions. So that's easy, that's what you need to do. Sit here, make peace, be kind, be gentle. Don't try and get rid of things. Don't hate yourself or hate your body or hate your mind. Be kind to it. This is the only body and mind you've got right now. So you better be kind to it. You've got to stay with this mind for years to come. So until you get a right attitude to it, you're going to suffer. So be kind to your stupid old mind. Be gentle with it. Look after your body. And then you will find you get peace and happiness beyond your wildest imaginations. And don't be afraid you'll get attached. You will get attached. And you will get enlightened. Easy. So, there we go. We'll wait for it. So